hits a bottom. In 12-step programs, we call it a bottom. And then it's willing to accept a little bit of help from God and from other people. Yes.
I like how you presented the ego as a form of addiction. I've never heard it put that way. And accepting that is an addiction, and we know what addiction is a result of, or what it can do, looking at an addicted alcoholic, and then going through the 12-step program, like an alcoholic addictum of the ego. I see where it would really help to get to that spiritual level,
Yeah, in fact, there is a 12-step program for people with emotional problems called Emotions Anonymous. It's just like Alcoholics Anonymous, the same kind of a program, but it's people who have trouble with their emotions. And that's very close to what I'm talking about here. It's not egos or ego addicts anonymous, but it's Emotions Anonymous. And maybe someday I'll start a program called Egos Anonymous. But it's in existence, and there are meetings around here, not too far from here. If anybody's interested, I can give you some information about that after the meeting.
Dr. Hirschfield, the ego is sort of like an acronym for edging God out. When it comes to taming the ego, how does one differentiate capitalism? I want to buy, I want to be, I want to do, I want to have the most money, I want to have the nicest car, I want to have the greatest job, I want to be famous. How does one, I guess, ascertain the idea of spirit and finding that truth within? How does one really get there?
Interesting question, thank you. It takes a lot of time, which the ego doesn't like. The ego wants to do it immediately, Show me what these 12 steps are, and I'll work them for a week, and I'll be done. That's the way I felt when I first came to a 12-step program. I didn't say a week, I think I said a month. But essentially, I found out that it takes a little longer than that, and it takes a lot. And one of the things the ego needs to learn in this transformation process is patience. The ego is very impatient, wants instant gratification. Instant gratification is what we get when we get there. But as long as we're still in the clutches of our egos, we're going to get instant fear, instant separation, not instant gratification. If we get instant gratification, it wears out after the instant is over, and or very soon thereafter, and it's not gratifying anymore. It's like, when an alcoholic started drinking, the alcohol felt good, like it does to most of us who are not alcoholic. And it gives you a kind of a good feeling. But eventually, you learn that sheddings may not be the best word, but getting your ego to cooperate is that you don't do it by forcing the ego to surrender. You don't do it by any kind of method that uses force. In other words, you come to it from a place of love. And you approach your ego with love, because love is the healing power. And so what I did was essentially exactly that with my ego. I said, let's be friends. I have conversations with my ego, and I would recommend that for some of you who might want to try this. Let's be friends, and you've tried your own ways of trying to get your own way, and it's making us miserable, and we ended up in this awful place where we're feeling depressed and anxious, and nothing seems to work. How about trying to believe that there is a power greater than yourself, ego, that can restore your sanity? And when I'm saying that, I'm speaking more from this true self. I'm speaking to my ego from the true self. So I try to, as much as possible, look at the world as God sees it. And I know that sounds kind of pretentious, but God sees everything in a loving way, in a forgiving way, in an accepting way. And the more I can do that, the more my ego eventually learns. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of conversations, and a lot of little bits of surrender here and there. And it's kind of a matter of when eventually I can sense, well, let me go back. Initially, my ego just jumps in there and reacts, and mostly reacts from stuff inside me, emotional stuff I haven't finished healing. And so if someone says something that my ego feels a slight to it, it will slash back, it will fight back. Or it will, the flight or fight response, or it will withdraw and get down on itself. But that response comes from ego. And if I can catch that before I express it, I can make a decision that I don't want to do that. That's the old way I used to do things. From ego, now I want to do what my higher power would do. And so I say into myself, I might say to that person who slighted me, well, it's okay. I don't need that person's approval to feel okay about myself. I have God's approval. I know God always approves of every one of us, no matter what we've done. No matter what our egos have done, I should say. Because God only sees our true self. And our ego doesn't exist in God's eyes. So we're always approved of. And I go back to that true self more and more. And the more I do that, it's kind of like practicing playing the piano. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And it takes time. And life provides ample opportunity to do that. Somebody cutting you off on the expressway or whatever. You don't have to react. Some people would take out a shotgun and shoot the guy. I never got quite that bad, but I used to try to drive faster and get in front of him and put my brakes on. I don't do that anymore. I say, okay, go with God. God bless you. I don't have to keep up with you. I don't have to be related to you. You're a friend that I would probably never know. But I think of everybody on the road as my friend. And when I have an accident, it's usually an accident that I caused because I'm not paying attention, like I had like a front wheel on my car because I ran on a curve. So there's still stuff inside me that comes out and needs to be taken care of. But whenever I want to react, I want to get at them, and I want to throttle them maybe, but I know that there's something inside me that needs healing, and that's where I have to go. If I want peace, I have to make peace inside me. If I want peace in the world, I have to start with me. Like the song says, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And that's what it means to me. It means making peace with my ego. And making sure as much as I can that my ego is at peace so it doesn't have to. And that means working on all the stuff all the way back to my childhood that ever was done to me or that I did to other people, and cleaning that up. And that can be cleaned up. Excuse me, but this gentleman had his hand up.
It was just that what you're expressing in the ideology of what you're expressing here between the ego and the spirit, I'm looking at it as if it's almost a sort of a circle in where you have like the yin yang, and you have you're going from one into the other. Yet one thing is surrendering. One gives birth to the other, yet surrenders as you tame it. And so, as you live it, you sort of are going day to day, trying to resolve it, trying to tame it, trying to analyze it, trying to sort of flow with it, but not get stagnant in any of the points below where the ego tends to want to take a little stand here and there. Whereas if you were, as you identify with spirit, it's a continuum sort of thing where that's how I'm understanding this.